Okay. I stopped the video somewhere in there. Sorry. Let's start over again. But children of Turin and Tuor. Turin and Tuor are very much opposites for each other. They both are orphaned. In Turin's case, he's functionally orphaned, but both his parents outlive him, and Tuor is actually orphaned just after being born. His dad was killed in the nienor, and then his mom died shortly after giving birth to him, and then sent him off to live with the elves and then died. But they live very opposite lives. Turin was raised in peace and privilege. He had joy in his sister, and then he had a touch of pain and sadness when she passed away, but he was still very much living in an overall happy life. And his dad went to war, got captured, and he got sent off to live with the elves. And he was raised and seemed pretty happy in Menegroth. And then the whole ordeal happened with the king's counselor, and he banished himself and ran off and was basically hounded by tragedy ever since then. And every time somebody tried to turn him right, or somebody gave him a thought or suggestion, or he tried to turn himself right, it would go wrong. Just always went wrong. Whereas Tuor, he was raised on the run, essentially, because even the elves that raised him, they were constantly in hiding and trying to flee from the Easterlings and the orcs. And so he was raised in no way in luxury, and yet he developed into such a true-hearted hero that Ulmo himself was coming and giving him instructions and telling him a message to send to Torgon. He was willing to hear the god of the sea. He was willing to trek through Middle-earth to find the hidden kingdom. And when the message was ultimately rejected, he was willing to, I guess he didn't have much choice in the matter of staying in Gondolin. However, he didn't do it grudgingly. He did it willingly, and then took his place in the king's ranks and was willing to be there to defend. And he wasn't prideful. Again, a contrast between him and Turin. When Turin went to Nargothrond, his first thing was, we'll change it all to be basically how I want it to be. Now, I don't think Turin intended it to be a prideful thing, but Turin was arrogant. He was not spiteful, but he felt like the world was out to get him. And yet, if you look at it, like, Tuor had way more reason to feel like the world was out to get him. And he went through with humility and dignity, and he would listen to Torgon and then give his counsel back. He didn't come in saying, hey, this is what I think we should do because you're being a chicken. I mean, Torgon was hiding, the same as Orodreth, and yet the reactions between the two were so different. And then the result, ultimately, I guess, was the same. Gondolin fell, Nargothrond fell, but the one, in the case of Nargothrond, it fell not due to, yes, due to Orodreth, but because he was way too eager to listen to Turin and gave him way too much power in the kingdom, whereas Torgon was the one who decided he's going to ignore Tuor, and ultimately, due to a few things, Maeglin got jealous of Tuor and went off and kind of set himself up to get captured. But all in all, like, he was willing to hear people first and then give his counsel. He was willing to be humble. He was willing to be teachable. And then he became such a mighty hero and succeeded, where Turin failed. There was another question I was going to try and get to, just trying to think it out, and I'm not sure how now to word it or how to put it in, because this kind of took its own way. I'm not reading a script, obviously. I'm driving and just kind of talking through my thoughts on this. But the question I was going to get to was the children of Turin, their choice of ending their own tragic lives in the end of the tale. Was that a right decision, or was that a wrong decision? Now, from a religious perspective, it's commonly viewed that suicide is a shameful thing. It's a sinful thing by some religious ideologies, and in any case, it's a tragic thing. Nobody should ever feel the need to end their own life. But in the case of Nienor and Turin, like, I don't know what the right choice would have been. In Turin's case, he realized he'd just gone from one mistake to another, and no matter what he tried to do, he couldn't seem to remedy it. Now, the story kind of lays it out that, it was the curse of Morgoth that was dogging him his whole life. But also, it's kind of put in just such a way that it's all based on his actions. There's nothing supernatural that's been happening to Turin throughout his life to make him live that way. It's kind of been like the placebo effect. He was told that he was cursed, and after just a few too many sad encounters or unhappy encounters, then he just was like, yeah, I believe it, and just kind of owned it. Kind of like a hypochondriac who you tell them, oh, well, you've got a family history of this or that disease, and suddenly they're sick with everything under the sun. But Nienor, though, she wasn't hounded by the curse of Morgoth up until she met with Glaurung. And then it was like a literal curse of forgetfulness and dumbness. And so, like, she didn't know what was going on. And so then when that was all finally undone, and she now discovers that, she's been doing some pretty awful stuff that she didn't know was awful. Turin didn't know it was awful. They had never met before. But now she's like, well, I can't keep living like this. So again, like, what choice did she have? What would have been the correct thing for her to do other than to take that leap? And like, that's tragic. I don't know. That was the question I was going to get. And now you see, like, that is completely disconnected from the whole comparison of Turin and Tuor. But now I've got it out, I guess. I'm going to post this probably basically as it is, because A, I am still very new to editing, and B, I'm just trying to get my thoughts out here, or out onto the internet, and see what comes back. This channel's pretty new, obviously, and pretty bare bones and sketchy. Not sketchy, the wrong word, but we're working on it. We're practicing, kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. But yeah, there you go.